Hi, everyone. This is Kristan Hawkins, and welcome to Explicitly Pro-Life. And we are in a new mini-series on winning pro-life tactics. And so I'm so excited today to have Mark Lee Dickson join us. He is the founder of Sanctuary Cities for the Unborn. You all might have heard about the recent victory that Sanctuary Cities had in Lubbock, Texas. I know Students for Life Action was really honored to be there, knocking on doors, talking to citizens, when the majority of the city actually voted to make their city a sanctuary city, abortion free. And then the abortion industry, Planned Parenthood, sued because they have an abortion facility within city limits, and the judge just ruled that they didn't have standing to sue. And so babies are being saved. And I believe it's the first city, Mark, you can correct me, that has become a sanctuary city that actually had an abortion facility within it. So I wanted to have you on today to talk to everyone about what your strategy is, what you've been doing in 31 cities across the country, and how others can get involved. So thanks for joining me.
Hey, great to be on here. So ultimately, what the whole picture is here is that Amos 5:15 says to hate evil, to love good, and to establish justice within your city gates. And that was the verse that really pierced my heart when I saw a situation in Waskom, Texas, where an abortion facility at one time was looking at crossing the border to a place called Waskom, Texas. Okay. And the community of Waskom, they didn't want an abortion facility there. And so they asked what they could do. And so ultimately what happened was they passed an ordinance outlawing abortion, and it caught on. And city by city, they realized that they could do this, that they don't allow other things in their community. They don't allow strip clubs. They don't allow other different things they just don't want there, like the use of engine brakes on big trucks. They don't want that in their community. So what do? They pass an ordinance. And so that's what these cities have done. They've said that they don't want innocent children made in the image of God to be murdered in their cities. And so we've seen these actions by these city councils, and there's a lot more city councils out there that they don't want abortion in their community either. And so it's very encouraging to be a part of that movement. And I do not believe it's going to be dying down anytime soon. We're going to see more of these, not just in Texas, but we already have 2 in Nebraska and 1 in Ohio. And the future, it really is pro-life.
That's awesome. How did you get involved in this effort? Were you there in Waskom when the city decided that they wanted to stop this abortion facility from entering their borders?
Well, absolutely. So I ended up going to the closest surgical and medical abortion facility to where I live in Longview. And that abortion facility is in Shreveport, Louisiana, about an hour from Longview, to the east. And Hope Medical Group for Women is the name of that horrible, horrible place that ends the life of 100 children every week. And I was on the sidewalk of that abortion facility, and one of the mothers that was there, the people there had told her that they may be closing down. And, you know, these abortion facilities, if they close down, they're not going to go open up an ice cream parlor or, take up some other job. They're in the business of killing babies, and they're going to find some way to do that, even if they have to cross the border. And so I had seen that those plans were existent at one time, and someone down in the Houston area had actually pledged land in a building to that abortion facility in Shreveport in Waskom, Texas. And so I'm the one who reached out to the mayor, which was a very awkward thing to do. It's never done that before. And he asked me what they could do, and it just kind of rolled off my tongue. I said, you need to pass an ordinance outlawing abortion within city limits. I had been done before. Apparently it hadn't, but I'm just very grateful that God gave me the words that day. And now we're seeing so much courage in these city council leaders, and people bring all these insults on them. They'll say that they're a bunch of old white men, or that how dare them, as straight white men, to do this, and it's laughable. But this is what we need to see. We need to see courageous leaders stand up, and that is something that I'm 35 years old, and it inspires me so much to see older men and women stand up and be those courageous voices. We've needed that for so long in our culture. And the youth of America, that's what they need to see. They need to see courageous men and women saying that babies are not going to be murdered in our cities.
So, you called the mayor Waskom. You saw a victory there because you guys were able to pass a city ordinance which stopped the abortion facility in Shreveport, Louisiana, from moving into Texas. What other victories have you seen? I mean, I think Lubbock has been covered widely within the pro-life and conservative media, and even in the pro-abortion media at some respects, as they're starting to catch on to this. But how many other cities have passed these ordinances?
So 31 total. And we're passing ordinances, not resolutions. We're making it law of the land for right there in those cities for abortions not allowed. And early on, when we were at about 12, we're at 12 cities. We had 7 cities in East Texas get sued by the ACLU, representing 2 abortion groups, the Lilith Fund and the T Fund. And that lawsuit lasted 3 months and resulted in the ACLU withdrawing their lawsuit. Abortion remains banned in all those cities. And so right now, with all the lawsuits the ACLU has been involved with, there's 8 total, counting Lubbock. Well, we've got 8 wins and 0 losses so far. And so
why did the ACLU and Lilith Fund, why did they pull out of those lawsuits they had in those 7 cities? Because I think that's something that when a new kind of tactic or strategy in the pro-life movement starts budding up, we often hear kind of concerns from the lawyers about whether or not that tactic is a relevant tactic, or is this something that's going to cost more money and force pro-life taxpayers to pay legal fees for the abortion industry when they win. And so I've heard that used a lot of times to justify not moving forward in pro-life legislation. And some of those arguments I do believe have merit, and it is a real concern. But you're actually seeing legal victories here. Why are you seeing the victories? What's the ruling that's being handed down in these cases? Well,
for the Lilith Fund, in that situation with those cities, they didn't have standing for a lawsuit. And so they didn't really sue over the actual abortion ban in those cities. They sued over things around the edges. So they said that we were affecting their freedom of speech. Well, the reality is that these ordinances didn't say that they couldn't talk about their pro-choice beliefs. In fact, when Waskom outlawed abortion, the Lilith Fund put up 2 billboards in Waskom that said abortion is freedom. Now, this was right before July 4th weekend. And what was interesting by that, even the Democrats in Waskom were ashamed of those signs put up by an Austin group that far more liberal than even the Democrats in that area. And so when those signs were put up, those billboards, abortion freedom, the news media, Washington Post, others, they asked me, well, what are you going to do? And I said, well, we didn't outlaw freedom of speech. We outlawed the murder of innocent children. And if the Lilith Fund wants to spend money on billboards, then great. That's less money they can spend on the murder of innocent children. And so that was already established. And so when we got this lawsuit and we saw that that was one of their claims, another claim of theirs is they were complaining that we're calling them criminal organizations. which, based on the pre-Roe statutes, which never have been repealed in Texas, well, abortion is a criminal act according to the pre-Roe statutes. And so what we said was, well, we'll put a line in the ordinance that says nothing in this ordinance prohibits your freedom of speech. And since they didn't like being called criminal organizations, we took out the listing of their name, but they're still criminal organizations by being involved in the actions they're involved with. Well, we did that expecting them to go after the actual abortion ban. Well, they didn't. And so that's when they withdrew the lawsuit, and we saw victory in that this abortion ban was not struck down, which is what they wanted. They wanted these to appeal. And in fact, another point of that picture, at that time, they actually sued 7 cities in East Texas that were surrounding an Obama appointee in Marshall, Texas. Well, so it looked like they were doing a little court shopping there. But what's interesting is the largest city at that time was Big Spring, Texas, which is about 30,000. Well, where are they at? They're in West Texas. And so, completely different part of the state, very conservative judges over there. And so what's interesting is they sent a letter to the mayor of Big Spring, and they said, hey, we just sued these 7 cities in East Texas. And they asked the city of Big Spring to go ahead and repeal their ordinance. Well, the mayor of Big Spring said, we didn't get sued yet. And so the mayor of Big Spring wanted to send them a response. And so, of course, here in Texas, we do things a different way at times. He wanted to take some fracking sand and a hammer with a little note that said pound sand and send it to the ACLU. Unfortunately, the city attorney would not let them have any fun. City attorneys are like that sometimes. So that didn't get sent, but it's still in his office, as a reminder of
So that was just one of their bullying tactics. Even though they had no, legal victory and they ended up withdrawing these lawsuits, they're just sending letters to other cities saying, hey, if you dare, we're going to sue you, to try to scare cities into not pursuing the ordinance. What's your, advice? I mean, are you only pursuing this in cities where there are conservative district courts?
It's something that if the people want to see abortion outlawed in their community, then we want to give it a shot. Let their elected officials go on record to say if they want babies to be murdered in their city or not. And of course, in order for this process to move forward, to get on the ballot, it takes there being enough people there, because it's a very exhausting experience to rally a city to go before city council.
That's my next question.
Absolutely. To see this kind of stuff pass, there are cities like for instance, Austin, Texas. I don't think Mayor Steve Adler wants to see this on the agenda anytime soon. He is a pro-abortion guy. He is not going to entertain this if he has to do. Now, there are other cities, though, that kind of make us wonder, like all the victories we've seen here lately with like McAllen voting for a Republican mayor. Well, there's, I believe, 85% Hispanics down there. Well, I'm wondering if maybe we have a shot in McAllen. I'm wondering if maybe we have a shot in Fort Worth, Texas. And some of these other cities.
How do you go about? So you're looking at it with a bigger view, 30,000-foot view, I guess, of what's the makeup of the mayor, the city council. What do you need? Like, if someone's listening and says, I want to make my city a sanctuary city for the unborn, what are the steps they need to take? What do they need to start researching right away?
So my encouragement immediately is to sign the online petition, because that is how we look at the whole picture. And so on sanctuarycitiesfortheunborn.com, we have an online petition there. When they fill that out, that gives us a lot of different information about do they go to church in the city where they live, or do they go to church in a different city? Because that could actually be used to help with another city possibly. But we have all those things there. And when we get a whole lot of signatures from one area, then that's when we start looking at more and more, okay, what is it going to take for that area? Now, sometimes we have a mayor or council member sign the petition, which fast tracks it. But if we just have one person sign the petition from, for instance, we had one person sign the petition from Dickinson, Texas, which is a city of a little over 20,000. Well, we need a whole lot more than just one person. We need a whole lot of people. We need hundreds of people from Dickinson, Texas to sign the online petition. With cities like Lubbock, I mean, we had hundreds and hundreds, thousands of people sign the petition. And that helped us rally the troops, because not everyone who signs a petition is going to want to show up for a rally. Sometimes they just want to vote. So they just want to, they'll vote, they'll sign a petition, they don't want to get out in public. They don't want to speak. That's okay. We need everyone to do their part. But that's where it starts. And once we have a whole lot of people in that community, then it helps us to go into that community and plan events like, let's have an interest meeting at a church. Let's see who we have in the community that are really leading this effort, that want to see this happen. We draft an ordinance at that time specifically for that city. And that way, when we go before the city council, we have all our ducks in a row. We know if the city attorney is a diehard Democrat who gave money to Biden or Pelosi or Schumer or whoever. And we see that all the time. It amazes me how many mayors and city councils say that their city attorney is conservative. And I will look up their contribution history. I'm like, oh, so he's so conservative that he donated to Nancy Pelosi. Bull crap. You know what I'm saying? We're letting these city attorneys and city managers, these unelected bureaucrats, run our cities. Okay. And so these people, a city attorney here in Texas could be over 14 different cities. And if they're a diehard Democrat, well, what is that? They're little tyrants, and they need to be put in their place. And so this is not just about seeing our cities outlaw the murder of innocent children within their city limits, but it really ends up having this cleansing effect, that it causes people to really see, well, wait a second. So there's a city in Texas, Centerville, Texas. This city's less than 1,000 people, right? It's 800 and something people. And Centerville, Texas, very conservative area. I think it has like close to an 80% Trump voters or something of that nature. Well, their city attorney is married to a former board chair of Planned Parenthood. I don't think he's going to be for this ordinance. Why? He's in bed with Planned Parenthood. So those things have to be discussed. There's a board member, city council member for the city called West Texas. That's a city. And one of their city council members, who's involved on school board and various other things, she's a spokesperson for Planned Parenthood. Do you think she's going to be for outlawing abortion in West Texas? Absolutely.
So I guess that what you're saying is, if you're thinking about and you're reading the stories about what happened in Lubbock, the first thing is you need to research your mayor, who's on your city council, what the makeup of that is, and research their spouses as well. Do all of these ordinances come before the city as a vote like they did in Lubbock, or have you seen other places where it's just a simple vote of the city council?
So usually it's a simple vote of the mayor and council. Okay. Lubbock is the only situation that it was brought before them in an initiative and referendum. Okay. And we don't like that method.
It's more work, but I like the fact that now it's on record that a majority of the city of Lubbock voted to say that they didn't want the abortion facility, Planned Parenthood in town. And I think what's really interesting too is you think about what you were saying about the lawsuits earlier. And Planned Parenthood tries to make it seem like this huge infringement on people's rights for not to have an abortion facility. But there's like 19,000 cities in the country, and less than 600 of them actually have an abortion facility within them. So it's interesting with their argument for standing. Do you anticipate, like in Lubbock, they're going to get together since the judge just ruled that the abortion facility, Planned Parenthood, didn't have standing to sue? Or you think they're just going to get together a bunch of women who want to have abortions in Lubbock to then sue again?
Well, they can't sue the city of Lubbock. The way that these ordinances are written, the city of Lubbock is not the one enforcing the ordinance. So the way these ordinances work is private enforcement. It's very much like the heartbeat bill that was just passed here in Texas. Mm-hmm. You can't bring a pre-enforcement challenge. That's part of the dismissal of the lawsuit. And so what would have to happen?
Who enforces it, though? I'm sorry, you said it's private enforcement. Who's enforcing the ordinance to make sure Planned Parenthood ceases their abortion operations in Lubbock?
So what the ordinance allows for private citizens to sue the abortionist and anyone who aids and abets the abortionist for the death of any unborn child in Lubbock, Texas. And so they have to wait until they are sued. Now, if they want to perform abortions and risk getting sued by anyone in Lubbock, or actually anyone in the state of Texas who wants to sue them, they could make that choice. But that would get extremely expensive for them. And
so have they ceased committing abortions in Lubbock?
So June 1st, they stopped performing abortions. They stopped scheduling them. They completely, removed from their website. They put a statement up there that said that due to the ordinance, and now they use their own words, like unconstitutional ordinance, that people would have to go outside of Lubbock for abortion, which we're fine with that. We can't affect what happens in Austin or San Antonio or DFW. We can only affect what is in our jurisdiction. What we can affect the city of Lubbock. We can affect Sundown, Texas. If they want to go out, to Austin or San Antonio, they can do that, but not in our cities.
I think there's good strategy there, because we know the further you make a woman have to travel, the more she has to think about the abortion that she's paying someone to commit. And the longer you make a woman think about the abortion, the more likely she is to choose life. That's you've often heard with the 24-hour waiting periods or the 72-hour waiting periods where the women can go in, they can schedule their abortion, they can pay for it, they can get counseling, but then they have to go home, think about what they're going to do before they commit abortion. And the abortion industry, in their own talking points, admits that this is the reason why they hate the waiting periods, is because they don't want women to have to be able to think about their decision. And they make it sound like it's this big burden that a woman has to wait an extra day to kill her child. But in reality it's because they know she doesn't show up for that abortion facility appointment, and then they lose money, and that's what they're all about. So what are the other cities? I heard there is a fight starting in Naples, Florida, which I'm really interested in. I spent about 2 months down in Naples this winter. I'll be down there for about 2 months next winter. I actually recorded this podcast at the pregnancy center across the street from the Planned Parenthood, which was shut down because of COVID, thank God. But it was interesting because the Planned Parenthood there in Naples, they're connected to the whole, Western Florida affiliate, and they've got this huge mega clinic in Fort Myers, a huge mega clinic in Sarasota. But the one in Florida, they actually operate not within city lines. They're actually operating within the county because they already were afraid of what the city would do. So they're literally right on the edge of the city and the county of Naples.
So just one little road in between them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, the concern is that what would happen if that Planned Parenthood moved into the city limits? Mm-hmm. So maybe, because it's a large building, and the amount of money that they're probably pouring into that, they could probably do better getting a smaller facility, possibly within city limits. Mm-hmm. And so that is a battle that's been going on for a while. We have one council member that is just right now, he's lacking the cojones to actually do something. And so we're one vote shy in Naples, Florida, getting this on the agenda and passing this ordinance. The same situation exists in Odessa, Texas. We're one vote shy over there. And so that's why it's so important to not just elect people to office because they're a good guy or they throw an extra burger on the grill. We need to actually know what they believe. Are they pro-life or pro-choice? Are they LGBT or not? Like, where do they stand on all these different issues that mean something to us? And so we need to get to know our council members. We need to get to know our mayor. And if we see people in these positions of power in our communities, not just mayor and council, but also school board. School board's really important. We can't neglect that. If these people don't represent our beliefs and values, then we need to get them out of office. And if we can't find someone to replace them that represents our beliefs and values, then we need to run ourselves for that office.
Right. That's right.
And so with Naples, Florida specifically, what's it going to be? Are we going to do an initiative and referendum? Well, at this point, it might be smarter to just get people that actually represent our beliefs and values into office. And so there's a guy, Bill Oppenheimer, with Action for Life Florida, who is planning on, he's already announced that he is going to be running for office. Because we shouldn't have to do these things. We shouldn't. Naples, Florida protects baby turtles on the beach. You know, if you disturb the turtles, you're going to get in trouble. And so we're living in cities that protect baby turtles, but they're not going to protect unborn children. Trap. We've got to do something. We got to stand up. We got to take back our cities, and we just got to call them out on their inconsistencies. That we need to be cities that it doesn't matter how beautiful our beaches are if we kill unborn children.
It's a great point. And Naples has got some beautiful beaches. They've also have a very conservative base there. It's interesting to say it's one of the richest cities in the country, and it's bordered one of the poorest cities in the country. So we know exactly what the abortion industry is doing there. And I had Gary Ingold from Community Pregnancy Clinics on my podcast 2 seasons ago, talking about their incredible work in Naples and all that they're doing throughout Florida now. It's expanding, and it's some of the most innovative tactics, and actually gave me the idea for this mini season to start featuring some different tactics and methods in the pro-life movement. So thank you, Mark, for coming on today and for all that you're doing with Sanctuary Cities for the Unborn. Where can folks go to learn more information about what you're doing, how they can sign up to get involved, and how they can start the research in their city to pass an ordinance to ban abortion within their city limits?
Well, we have a website, www.sanctuarycitiesfortheunborn.com. And also, if someone's a mayor or city council member and they want to reach out directly, feel free to they can add me on Facebook at Mark Lee Dickson. And I'm very reachable, and I would love to work with them to see abortion outlawed in their city. Doesn't matter what state, doesn't matter what city. They want to see this happen, and God is putting that on their heart. Then I want to do everything I can to help them out.
Sounds like you need to do a LinkedIn ad campaign to target all the different city council members across the country. That would be fun. All right. Thanks so much for coming on. Thank you guys for tuning into this special episode, Explicitly Pro-Life. I hope this was informative for you. If you hadn't heard about Sanctuary Cities for the Unborn, make sure you Google it and you get involved and you pay attention, because who knows, it's coming to a city near you, and you may be the one having to bring it. Bye, guys.